Americans revealing pent-up anger and frustration at the health insurance industry in the aftermath of the cold-blooded murder of the United Healthcare CEO on the streets of New York City. The reaction is sparking a broader conversation about the industry's business practices and questions about how things might change.
And completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people.
The suspect in the targeted killing of United Healthcare's CEO with a message on his way into court. That message, not as clear as the one New York police say Luigi Mangione wrote down in a manifesto.
But it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
The NYPD says he saw the killing as a symbolic takedown and was driven by anger against the health insurance industry and corporate greed.
I think he'll go down as a hero in history.
That anti-health insurance sentiment lit up the internet, with tweets, memes, and other social media posts expressing similar frustration.
I'm not saying what happened should have happened. For them to be like, oh, this is like, why would anybody want to do this? They're denying claims and people are dying.
Fearing copycat killers, corporate America is responding. Some companies removing executives' bios and photos from websites, upping security for execs. And in what may have been a case of bad timing, Blue Cross Blue Shield also announcing, then scrapping, plans to put time limits on coverage for anesthesia during surgery after getting major backlash.
If anything good is going to come of this, it's going to be policy change, because you've basically got people lighting up their torches. They're going to burn it down. And you gotta hear that.
Okay, well, Nia, I want to start with you about this anger. This is a big question, but what's your sense about, is it warranted?
It is warranted. I mean, I think people have legitimate frustrations at the insurance companies, the way they often deny claims, how difficult it is often to even submit your claims and get the money back, or even even understand your basic insurance policy. It's all very confusing. But I think tying it to this act of violence from a sociopath, I think, is despicable and terrible. And the folks who are sort of on TikTok talking about this, I think they should organize, right? I think they should organize. I think they should mobilize, and I think they should protest in a pointed way, because I don't think change is going to come because a bunch of folks are lauding this guy who did this despicable
act. Just to be clear, I mean, he obviously, because this is a person who's driven by something specific, writing on the bullet cases, literally injected this into the conversation very specifically. I've been watching Democrats kind of walk a line trying to appease this rise in a constituency. Here's Senator Elizabeth Warren talking about it this week.
Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
Terrible. Just terrible.
That response, or just walk me through it.
Yes.
Give me your thinking.
Violence is never the answer, but that's it. That's the end. I think about this in terms of a lot of other issues on which Americans are deeply frustrated. Take, for instance, colleges and universities, the number of Americans who are in crippling student loan debt. If someone went out and shot a college president, we would not be having a conversation about, gosh, do we need to reform higher ed in America? We'd be talking about right-wing extremism and look at what this has led to, and people would be yelling at Congresswoman Stefanik for, look at what you did, you caused this. And we're not having that conversation now. Instead, we're like, did this guy have a point? And to me, I think we absolutely need to have a conversation about our healthcare system and the many other things wrong in this country.
I just want to add this one thing, because the United Health Group CEO, Andrew Whitty, actually wrote in the New York Times, that dropped this week, where he was talking about basically saying, quote, we need to improve how we explain what insurance covers and how decisions are made. And also talking about the fact that the U.S. healthcare system is a patchwork and that they want to improve.
Look, here's the problem. It's a for-profit industry on something that's much more difficult to make. Everything is about the shareholders, just like a lot of companies, like tech companies and everything else. And so the way it is structured, in that people cannot get health care without dealing with this, with a for-profit corporations, their incentives will always be to behave like this and get as much of the of the money that they can from you. And that's the problem. It's like it starts there. And so we have to think about Medicare for All. I just interviewed Ro Khanna about this and a bunch of other things. So you've got to figure, and he's a big proponent of Medicare for all. They're dropping the age slowly. And so I think this is going to happen if we have these highly for-profit companies, that they are going to be probably, they're going to be villainized for sure. And then you get all these statements. The other thing is, this is such an internet meme thing where there's probably a lot of noise.
Looking at those TikTok images,
right,
the generation gap
I'm
was pretty
compelled by the
stark.
people who have these stories, which I think are astonishing. But I think it fits it. The looks of this guy, the pictures they publish. It all fits in that sort of dunking culture that we have that doesn't talk about complex issues like this. Instead, you have to be on one side or the other.
Okay, I want to, Rob, bring you into this conversation because, arguably Republicans have had, almost 15 years, right, to come up with something that is an alternative to Obamacare. They don't. They never have. So is this moment a moment that surfaces the issue in a way that puts it on their agenda?
I think Nia touched on something. I do think that if people come together and speak out and want to express some level of activism on this issue, yes, perhaps it could. Remember, in Donald Trump's first year in office, John McCain famously gave the thumbs down when they were trying to pass some health care reform. So it's not that they didn't have something, it just didn't get across the finish line to Trump's desk. But remember, there's a couple of things here. Number one, the way that we treat health insurance is different from almost any other type of insurance.
Yes, and Whitty actually mentions this in his article, it being a
exactly. So
patchwork.
that's one issue. Kara, probably not surprisingly, I disagree. I don't think that more government role here is necessarily the answer, because I think we can look at other countries and the delays that people have to wait to get the health care that they need. And finally, I would just say that anybody, since Obamacare was passed, can probably share a personal story of how their healthcare experience has gotten worse as opposed to improved.
Except in other countries, the outcomes are better and the cost is like a third of it. And so I get your point of maybe not every country works perfectly, but ours is deeply, deeply broken. And a lot of these TikToks, they don't have a left or right thing. This is across the
It is.
It's
And to
really
pose another question around Obamacare, one of the things I found fascinating is over the more than decade is the thing that keeps people enjoying it when they do support it is the elimination of pre-existing conditions as an excuse for denial of claims. This issue of being denied is very visceral for people. And I'm wondering, has this become another, not third rail, but are the policymakers maybe a little bit taken off guard at the reaction here?
I do think that there's a big problem in that if you want to solve, every time you try to solve one of these problems in our current complex system, it creates a new problem, right? So you want to solve the problem of pre-existing conditions. Right now, everybody knows it would be politically toxic to roll back protections for pre-existing conditions. But at the same time, then, okay, you try to press over here to change this. Well, okay, well, let's force companies to do X, Y, and Z. Does that then mean that their premiums go up elsewhere? Like somewhere along the line, the system needs such fundamental reform that no politician wants to touch it, because people in general, for all that you have these individual instances of so-and-so denied their claim, when you actually ask Americans, do you like your coverage, you would be surprised at how good the numbers sometimes are. And that also adds the complexity to the issue.
The problem is it feels much more like a poor versus rich issue than anything else. And like, look, rich people can afford, even moderately rich people can afford. And I think it's a great thing to lean into for Republicans and Democrats, this idea of reforming this and how to do it correctly, where you create good services but have better outcomes for it, because the prices, if you go to any other country, are so much lower. I mean, I had a stroke in Hong Kong and they handed me the bill and it was $82,000. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, it's ridiculous. That was in their money, and it was like $8,000 for an entire process, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll pay that. Like, it was really an interesting thing because I was so used to ridiculous prices.
Yeah, well, obviously it's an interesting issue, especially reading the Whitty op-ed where he basically addressed this almost a little more than talking about the executive whose life was taken.